Well, hello again, everybody. This is John Norris at Trading Perspectives. As always, we have our good friend Sam Clement. Sam, say hello.
Hey John, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking, and I hope you are.
Can't complain. It's been a good week so far.
Well, it has been a good week. And, I really enjoyed our look back on the New Normal series that we did last year. And I think our overall predictions were pretty good. I think pretty good, actually, very good, really, considering no one can look into the future with crystal clarity. Sam, what do you mean? Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean most of these predictions were anywhere from I'd say 3 years to 10, and probably somewhere 20 to 30 year predictions.
Oh, come
So
on.
uh,
30-year
to
predictions. No way, man. I'm going to be in
to
my
to look
80s.
back at to look back on it and try and give us an early grade. I think all of them were trending in the right direction. So, or most of them were trending in the right direction. So I'd say we did about as good as we could do, given the circumstance.
Well, all right. I'm going to have to teach you to blow yourself up a little bit more than that, and make sure that you're always on the forefront of self-aggrandizement. That's a trait that I have mastered, Sam. But that series is behind us, and today we're going to embark upon a new one, and we're going to examine really kind of income and wealth inequality in the United States. This is a topic which gets a ton of press and a ton of conversation, and no one likes income inequality. It's not one of these things that people go, yay, I'm for income inequality. Yay, I'm for wealth inequality. However, before we get too far down the road and talking about income inequality, I think it's fair, only fair, to kind of examine the root causes and maybe the trends in income inequality in the United States before we can sit there and say there's something wrong with our overall system, that there's some sort of systemic cause why people are not keeping up. And just sort of ask the question, Sam, why has this been happening? What are some of the root causes? And we did a fair amount of research on this. And I'm just going to throw the ball over to you, Sam, and just you tell me some of the stuff that you have found, some of the stuff that you have found interesting about it, and tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the fact that nobody's like cheering for income inequality. The issue is how people want to go about fixing it is really where the strife is.
And we will
Uh,
talk about solutions in another podcast.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's a weird start to the century so far in terms of the data for income inequality because of the timing of we've had pretty much two recessions really in this century, and one right at the early onset of this century, 2000, 2001. And so income is rising up to that, and then it falls, and then it takes all the way up to 2007 for people to start making the same amount of money they were previously, before the previous recession on average. And then of course we have the great financial crisis of 2008, and that plummets again, and then we don't have people making that same amount of money that they were in 2007 up until 2015. So it's a weird start to the century, just timing wise, of right when people started to make more money again. We fell into an even deeper financial crisis. But it's I mean, the trends probably aren't too surprising to people for what people hear. They say the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And if you look at the data, I mean, it's kind of accurate in a sense. I mean, the middle class is shrinking, and the middle class is shrinking from both ends.
Yeah, and what's interesting about the middle class is, intuitively you would sit there and say the middle class is always going to be the middle 50% of income earners. However, there is a calculation that the government uses, which we won't necessarily get into today. What I really kind of want to focus on is why the gap has been growing between, let's say, the top 10% or the bottom and the bottom 10%. I've really kind of focused, maybe I'm going to at least, some of the characteristics or what I have found, what causes income inequality, or what are some of the causes of extreme poverty in the United States. And, a wealthy country like ours with a economy that's well over $20 trillion. I mean, I think per capita GDP is up over $60,000, median household income close to $70,000 in nominal dollars. We're looking at a wealthy country. And so why aren't elements of our society living up to the American dream? Why do we have income inequality? Why do we still have poverty? And first off, let me say that, some of the stuff that people always hear. wealth is relative, and that's just the way it is. The poorest American is still better off than the poorest person in the Central African Republic, if you catch my drift. And
Yep.
some of the things that we take for granted here, even amongst our lowest income quintile, that they take for granted would have been unheard of for even Louis the 14th and all his vast wealth, riches. The medicine which we take for granted, the technology that we have, the ability to eat a pizza, Sam, watch television, surf the internet, have more than one suit of clothes. These are the types of things that we take for granted here. Even so, the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. And one of the things that I noticed when I was doing a little bit of research for this, Sam, is it seems as though, regardless of race, there is a few common characteristics about people who live below the poverty threshold. And, I'm just going to read it off here. And this is from the POV 16 table that the Census Bureau has on their income and poverty series. So by all means, people go out there and take a look at this. This is POV 16, primary families with related children under the age of 6 by householders' work experience and family structure in 2019. And Sam, it might not come as any surprise to you that according to this table, and you tell me what you think about this, the quickest way to poverty in the United States is to be in the primary families with a household where no one worked and had small children.
Yeah.
So households where no one works and have small children, that is the quickest way in poverty. It doesn't matter what race. And it's even worse if it happens to be a female. So that is an issue there. So primary families with a householder who did not work in 2019, 75.4% of those families with a female householder didn't work, had a small children. 75.4% of them, Sam, lived in poverty. Conversely, in households where both spouses worked full time year round, even with that small child, the poverty rate for that family structure and work experience was 0.4%.
Yeah. I mean, we talked last week, and we've talked about education and, things that, the solution is simple, I guess, but not easy. If that makes sense. And, the inequality and unemployment and just the strife we have here, it's, there's, when we've looked through the data, we've looked at this data for, a couple weeks really, and really a lot over this past week. And it's crazy how clear some of the data is of what are the major causes for poverty and income inequality. Now, the solution, we could maybe say you need to do this and this, but getting there is maybe the difficult part of it. I mean, there's certain segments of the data that have a negative 0.99 correlation, meaning the more you do of it, almost exactly that amount, your income is going to go down. And that's pretty common for some of this data that we've looked at. And so the solutions may be simple, but fixing those problems is a little more difficult.
Well, and Sam, it might not come to any surprise to you that the poorest segment in our society are unmarried females under the age of 20, having children and are uneducated, do not have a high school degree. Single mothers under the age of 20 are the poorest segment of our society, and it's almost 100% poverty.
Yeah.
So, these are the characteristics of poverty in the United States. And, some of the causes for it is, those are the characteristics. And what are some of the causes for it? Now, I would say, gee whiz, maybe we don't take education as seriously as we could. But obviously that's my own opinion. But Sam, some of the things that I have noticed really over the last several decades are, one, people are getting married older and fewer people are getting married. And so we're sitting there taking a look at households by income, and by income quintiles, there's a very clear characteristic of the upper income levels. It's two householders working, and preferably in a marriage. And that just makes sense. If you have two, salaries or incomes coming in, likelihood is you're not going to be poor.
Yeah, if you have two incomes and even say you're both at the $15 an hour wage, that's what, roughly $60-something thousand probably you're bringing in a year. that's doable. It's
Yeah,
very
I'm
doable.
not going to say it's easy, but it's
No, but
doable.
it's out of the poverty line.
Oh, it's well out of the poverty line. Well out of the poverty line. A couple of people making $15 an hour, working 35 hours a week, each of them, they're comfortably out of the poverty line. So, when taking a look at all this, I would say, some of the causes, people are getting married later. Not as many people are married. So when you're taking a look at the lowest income quintile, you're seeing younger people, as always, because they have less experience, but more younger people are single and living in single, individual households. So it's not quite the same as it used to be, where people did get married younger. They weren't as educated, but you still had two people in that household and potential for two incomes. Now that lowest quintile is increasingly single adults. Catch my drift?
And yeah, and it makes sense from the aspect of you think about what people spend money on, and a lot of it is things that are fixed costs.
Yeah.
Things that are, two people, you may still have the same apartment when you're married that you may have when you're single. And so what that means is you have now twice the income, and one time the one apartment still.
No, I mean, without a doubt. And if you take a look at an apartment, one bedroom apartment costs the same, regardless if you have one person in it or two people.
Yeah.
Utility bill is going to be the same. I mean,
roughly the same. Yeah, water bill is going to be
same.
roughly the same, maybe a little bit more. Obviously, you have more people, using the water, but it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. Like your water bill doesn't double when you have two people living in the house.
Yeah, so I mean, those are some of those things. So if all of a sudden you shift that to where that household is one, it's just one earner, then all of a sudden the numbers look a little bit different. And then, of course, a lot of this is based on surveys and tax returns and all that stuff. So is that household with that one earner, are they actually living in a apartment with a roommate? That's where the data gets really squirrely. And the Census Bureau would say, yeah, this is happening, blah, blah, blah. However, if I'm filing my taxes, if I'm reporting to something on a survey and I say that, I'm the primary householder of my household, that could be absolutely true, even if I have a couple of roommates. Catch my drift?
Yeah.
Which will greatly skew the numbers. However, the causes, still, Sam, are, the quickest way to poverty. We've already talked about it. Be uneducated, be a single parent, and don't work.
Yeah.
And the inverse is true. You want to be wealthy? You want to be in the top income quintile? Here are the characteristics. Be educated, preferably with a college degree or higher. Be married and work.
Yeah, classes you take in economics, there's ratios of the possibility of moving out of your quintile, and they have those ratios for different countries, and going from the lowest quintile to the upper quintile has a very small probability of happening. But moving up just one quintile has a decent probability of happening. And you get my point. In one generation, people generally don't. There's success stories all over, but generally people don't go from the lowest to the upper quintile in one generation. It takes generations to do that. It takes long-term changes and trends to do that. And that's where education comes into play, and societal trends come into play, and coming from a married household and your parents being educated, you'll probably do, I'd say, somewhat as well as your parents did, if not better, as education gets better, as technology gets better. If you start out on the equal playing front as your parents did, or the generation before you did, you have even more tools. That's how society grows, is each generation has more tools to advance themselves. And so you're starting out on a pretty decent playing field to move yourself up at least a quintile.
Well, I agree with you. If you're thinking about that, think about my first job making sandwiches on a golf course. I was 15, 16 years of age, making $3.35 an hour. And while I wouldn't have fallen into the survey for the Census Bureau's purposes, I would have been the lowest income quintile. And then with my first career type job in Baltimore, I probably would have been about median with that opening salary. And now I've moved into upper quintile. So I have shifted throughout quintiles as I've gotten a little bit older. Catch my drift?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's really how it works. I mean, obviously, like I said, there's cases of someone going rags to riches and, inventing something over a couple years and immediately going from the lowest quintile to the upper quintile. But generally, it takes shifts, it takes trends, and it takes time. Is the I think the big factor. It kind of goes along with compounding interest. There's things happen. But it takes time. You get a little bit better day over day or year over year or month or whatever, and it takes time. And as long as you're getting better and getting better, that compounding really does happen not only in investments but in your talent quality and your quality of life.
Well, I don't know how anyone would seriously argue with with that thought process. But let me shift gears just a little bit and tell you about a couple of other things I found. And I talked a little bit about unwed mothers, and that's absolutely right in the United States. However, someone that wants to argue with me could sit there and say, in the EU, you have a higher percentage of illegitimacy or unwed mothers in a lot of countries, particularly in places like Iceland, where it's, I think, overall illegitimacy rate, and that's probably not a PC term these days, but I can't think of something else. It's something like 66%. However, I would point out that a lot of these countries have a much lower teenage pregnancy rate, if you catch my drift, than the
Yeah.
United States. The United States has a much higher teenage pregnancy rate than really anyone in Europe. And Sam, if you will indulge me, I looked this up, and this is, I love being a nerd. You know that. And in 2018, according to, where did I get this? World Bank, I think I did. The United States had a teenage pregnancy rate of 18.56 per 1,000 for teenage women. The EU had that same measure was 6.5. 6.5, and in places like South Korea, it's 1.32. And
Yep.
Sam, I would say that's important because we're taking a look at things intuitively. That teenage mother, probably not married, because the average age of first time being married in the United States has gone up to something like 27 for females and 29 for males. But when you take a look at that, teenagers are going to be less educated than older populations. They're going to have less experience, and therefore they're going to be less marketable. So if you have more babies born to teenage mothers, almost by definition, these mothers are not going to be able to make as much money as they would if they were older and better educated and better work experience.
And I'm going to sound cold and heartless here for a second, but let's call kids what they are in a sense, and that it's debt. I mean, you have expenses that come with kids, and if
spoken from the newlywed, and here I am with two kids, one getting ready to graduate from college, and another one.
Well, you know it better than I do.
College. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Wouldn't change them for that. Wouldn't trade them in for the world. Love them dearly, but the amount of money that we had spent on those two, ingrates, by the way. The amount of money that Beth and I've spent on those two, we'd be living in a far grander home otherwise.
Well, but you get what I'm saying in the sense that if I went out and bought a house, that's my debt I have right now is a house. If I went out and bought that house right when I was 16 and was working at a country club, washing dishes and things like that, I would never be able to kind of expand out of that. I'd be barely covering my debt every single month, and there's no ability for expansion. There's no ability for that compounding effect because you're just constantly trying to, get your head back above water month over month over month. And you're nothing, that's why a large percentage of our country doesn't have any sort of savings rate or any savings at all. And when you have no savings at all, you have nothing to compound. You are spending paycheck to paycheck, and that's awful. But that fact doesn't allow you to compound or kind of grow or get yourself out of it. You have to be out of the hole first. And so I didn't want to take on debt before I could, comfortably manage that amount of debt. And that's what you see a lot of times when, people are having kids at an early age before they're really at a point where they can take on that responsibility and that debt. And it's hard to get out of that hole.
It's real hard to get out of that hole. And anyone that's been a parent will tell you that you got two rugrats crawling around needing you. You brought them into the world. it's a heck of a lot harder to go back to school. You don't have the time for it. You're exhausted, even if you did have the time.
Yeah.
And much harder to increase your marketability. I'm not going to say it's impossible. There are people that do it. However, it gets to be a Herculean effort. It
Yep.
truly does. And so when we take a look at income inequality, there are things to it. I mean, of course, we're in a 21st century knowledge-based global economy. Knowledge is key, not manual dexterity or manual labor. People are paid based on their thoughts, really being able to design and engineer, use a computer, all that stuff. That stuff comes from education and training. And if you don't have the education and training, you might get your GED, you might come out of high school with some rudimentary skills. However, you're not going to be as marketable, the vast majority, in my estimation, as those people that have been incredibly well trained in our nation's universities, or even in the U.S. military, getting some vocational skills, and those people are going to succeed. So, I can't necessarily give you all the causes. I mean, everybody's unique, Sam. But I can give you the characteristics. Characteristics of wealthy people are highly educated, highly trained, they work full time, and they're married, and they have a limited number of children. In terms of the poorest elements of our society, they are generally unwed, generally have young children, generally don't have a lot of work experience or educational attainment, and they're generally young.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, we kind of looked at the data, and it's simple in a sense. I mean, it's very clear when you break it down by any category you want, and those are the things that remain true. Is the things you just listed.
That's right. And I got to tell you, I mean, the trend lines aren't necessarily encouraging. And what I think all of us as Americans are scared is, here's this land of wonderful opportunity, and we don't want to kind of engender a permanent underclass of people, where people are born where they don't have any opportunity to get ahead. And that's what's frustrating for a lot of folks. So that's why the income inequality argument is or debate is so important, that people get so emotional about it. But as we will talk about the next couple of times on this 3-part series, some of it is, we're going to have to make some hard comments. We're going to have to make some strong statements, and we're going to have to look at ourselves in the mirror as a society. And we're going to have to question what messages we're giving our younger citizens about what it means to get ahead, and what it means to if you want to be wealthy, here are the things that you've got to do. If you want to stay out of poverty, these are the things that you got to do, and these are the things that you can't do.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on that, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of walking on eggshells, but we just got to realize what kind of tough conversations we want to have, and whatever trends and change we want to enact in our country to change those trends for something positive. And it's like I said, it may be obvious what the problems are, but the solution to it is a little trickier.
Well, the solution is going to be a little trickier, and the solution, it doesn't guarantee success.
Yeah.
However, the solution gives you the opportunity for success. Whereas if you don't try to at least enact the solution, you got really very little opportunity for success.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, guys, thank you all so much for listening. I mean, this is obviously a sensitive topic here, but we hope you liked what you heard today. We always love to hear from our listeners. So if you have any questions or comments, please, by all means, let us know. Drop us a line at tradingperspectives@oakworth.com, or you can just leave us a review on the podcast outlet of your choice. As always, if you want to hear more, read more, see more of what we have to think and how we view the world, by all means, go to oakworth.com and take a look underneath the Thought Leadership tab and find all kinds of interesting information there. Sam, got any last thoughts?
That's all I got.
That's all I've got today, too. Y'all take care.